Assalamu alaikum. My name is Patricia and I am from Germany. There is a particular kind of blindness that comes not from the absence of light, but from believing you already know what you are looking at. For most of my life, I was that kind of blind. I had formed an image of Islam from a distance, from news, from popular culture, from the quiet assumptions of the society I grew up in. And I carried that image as if it were knowledge, as if familiarity with a shadow was the same as knowing the thing that cast it. I want to tell you how that image shattered and what I found standing in its place. I was born and raised in Germany. I grew up in a Christian household, a practicing one. Faith was woven into the fabric of our daily life. We prayed before meals, we attended church on Sundays, we spoke of God as something close and personal, and I genuinely believed. That love for God was real. It was not performance. I truly longed to know the Creator, to draw near to Him, to understand what He asked of me and why. But from my earliest years as a young woman, something sat uneasy in my heart. Not uneasy in a way that pushed me away from God, quite the opposite. It pushed me deeper into the search for Him. There were questions I could not fully resolve. The doctrine of the Trinity, 3 persons, 1 God. I accepted it because it was what I had been taught, but it never rested quietly inside me. When I asked how the Almighty could be divided, how the infinite could take on the limitations of flesh, how a God who created all things could need anything at all, the answers I received were always the same. This is a mystery. This is beyond human understanding. Accept it by faith. And so I did, for years. I accepted it and kept the questions locked quietly beneath the surface of a faithful life. Yet, despite being surrounded by the rituals of faith, a deep, pervasive sense of emptiness lingered in my heart. I could not explain it. My life was good. I had family, community, purpose. But in those quiet moments before sleep, or in the early morning when I sat alone with my thoughts, something in me continued to search. Something in me knew that the answer it was looking for had not yet been found. I raised my daughters in Germany. I tried to give them what had been given to me: a love for God, a sense of moral purpose, a life of faith. And I was content, or I told myself I was content. But the restlessness never truly left. Then I met her. She was a colleague at my workplace, a Muslim woman who wore the hijab. And I will tell you honestly what I felt in that first moment, because honesty is the only thing that makes this story worth telling. When I first saw her, the image I had spent a lifetime constructing immediately rose up inside me. I expected to see oppression. I expected to see a woman diminished, controlled, a prisoner of a faith that had taken something from her. Instead, I was immediately and entirely disarmed. She was radiant, not in a superficial way, but in the way of a person who knows exactly who they are and exactly why they are here. She was warm. She laughed freely. She spoke with a confidence that did not need anyone's approval. She engaged with ideas, offered her perspective without apology, and listened to mine with genuine interest. She was everything I had been told she could not be. She was everything I had been told Islam would never allow her to be. Intrigued by the contradiction between what I had assumed and what I was witnessing every single day, I began to ask her questions. She never once made me feel that my questions were an intrusion. She answered with patience and with a kind of quiet joy, as if she was grateful for the opportunity to share what she loved. She gave me a copy of the Quran in a language I could understand, and she asked only one thing of me: to read it with an open heart. I took it home and I told myself I was merely curious. I was a woman of faith, yes, but also a woman of reason. I would not be moved by emotion alone. I would read, and I would think, and I would see. She had pointed me toward a short chapter near the end of the book, Surah Al-Ikhlas. I opened to it and read 4 lines that have lived inside me ever since. Say, He is Allah, the One, Allah, the Eternal Absolute. He He neither begets nor is born, and there is none comparable to him. I must emphasize this. 4 lines. That is all it took. The realization that dawned on me next was not a crash, and it was a dawn, slow, steady, undeniable. Here, in 4 lines, was the answer to the question I had carried for decades. Not God divided, not God who needed a son, not divinity mixed with mortality, but God, pure, singular, self-sufficient, without beginning and without end, the absolute, the eternal, the one. How could the Almighty, the supreme creator of every mountain and every ocean and every breath that has ever entered a living chest, how could he need anything at all? How could the infinite submit to the finite? The questions that had haunted me quietly for 30 years suddenly dissolved. Not because I stopped asking, but because the answer was finally clear enough to satisfy them. I sat there weeping. I did not know the words of Islam yet. I did not know how to pray or what to say. But I felt something I have no adequate word for, a profound radiant certainty, as if a room that had always been slightly dim had suddenly received the full light of the sun. I thought to myself, I don't know the words, but I feel like I understand everything. In the weeks that followed, I read more. I learned about the Prophet, peace be upon him, about his character, his mercy, his treatment of those around him, the poor, the stranger, the enemy. And with every page, the image I had inherited grew less and less recognizable. The Islam I was discovering was not the Islam I had been given by fear. And then, the men. I had been told my whole life that Muslim men were dangerous, rough, domineering. I began to truly watch Muslim men, not through the lens of what I had been told, but with my own eyes, free from inherited assumption, and what I found shattered something inside me that I had not known needed shattering. The strongest men I had ever seen in my life, strong in spirit, strong in character, strong in the kind of moral conviction that does not bend under pressure, were Muslim men. Men who carried themselves with a dignity that needed nothing to prove itself. Men who fasted through the long summer days and rose before the sun to stand in prayer in the cold silence of the morning. And when the name of Allah was mentioned, when a verse of the Quran was recited aloud, I watched tears come to their eyes, without embarrassment, without hiding, without any need to explain. Strong men weeping openly before their Creator. And I understood in that moment something about strength that the world had never once taught me. True strength is not the inability to weep. True strength is the willingness to stand before the Almighty in complete humility, with nothing to prove and nothing to hide. And the women, I had not seen any woman more beautiful on this earth. Not the beauty of surfaces, but the beauty of souls who know their worth and where it comes from. The beauty of women who do not need the world's definition of freedom to know that they are free. I had pitied them, and it was they who, without saying a single word about it, showed me what dignity truly looked like. But while my heart was being transformed, I hesitated. I am not ashamed to admit it. I thought of my family, of my friends, of the community I had built across decades of life in Germany. I knew that saying yes to this would mean facing questions, perhaps judgment, perhaps a silence where warmth had been. And I am only human. I was afraid of what I would lose, even as I could see with increasing clarity what I was about to gain. It was my daughters who broke the hesitation. I had not realized how closely they had been listening all along, how carefully they had been traveling alongside me through every conversation, every book, every question I brought home from work. My eldest came to me one evening, quiet, certain, with a stillness in her eyes I had never seen before, and she said, "Mama, I think I already believe this." I sat there weeping, overwhelmed by a divine presence that had entered our ordinary home, our ordinary kitchen in Germany, and I thought to myself, if my child can see this truth so clearly, with such unclouded certainty, what is it that I am still waiting for? What approval am I seeking that my Creator has not already given? Whose permission am I asking for when the door of truth is standing wide open in front of me? It was as if a lightning bolt had struck my soul, illuminating every dark corner of doubt I had ever harbored, not about Islam, but about myself, about my own hesitation, about the small, frightened calculations I had been making while Grace was waiting patiently on the other side of a single decision. We said the Shahada together, my daughters and I tell you, In all my years, in all the moments of joy and sorrow and meaning that a life in Germany had given me, I have never felt anything like that moment. Every question I had carried fell silent. Every fear became small. Every image I had borrowed from the world's fear dissolved completely, replaced by something real, something earned, something true, something that has not shifted even slightly in all the time since. I am here today with my dear friend Mar and with my daughters, the same daughters who reminded me that truth does not wait indefinitely for the courage to receive it. And I feel nothing but immense gratitude. Gratitude to Allah for being patient with a woman who asked hard questions and needed honest answers. Gratitude that His truth found me even through the walls I had built around it. My journey was long and sometimes painful, but every moment of doubt was worth it to finally arrive at the truth of Islam. To anyone who is searching, do not mistake the image the world hands you for the reality it has never shown you. Look for yourself. Ask for yourself. Read for yourself. And never let the fear of what you might lose blind you to the magnitude of what you are about to find.